In another book that I really, really like, this is edited by Donald W. Perry, who is also one of the International Dead Sea Scrolls scholars, Daniel C. Peterson, and John W. Welch, Echoes and Evidences of the Book of Mormon. It's 500 pages of material showing various different views, ideas, evidences in favor of the Book of Mormon as being an ancient text. Nephi, in his study of personal names in the Phoenician and Punic inscriptions, Franz Benz cites a Phoenician name that has Nephi. This is found at Elephantine in Upper Egypt. Ben sees the name as a Canaanite form of the Egyptian personal name Ka-Neferu. Nephi, an Egyptian, Phoenician, Semitic name. Right in the right area, right in the right time. The name Nephi in the late Egyptian period, 1000 to 300 BC, is a Y instead of an I. In Coptic, the successor language to the late Egyptian, Nefer was rendered Nufi, N-O-U-F-I, pronounced Nufi. The name Nephi is thus an attested Syro-Palestinian Semitic name of an attested Egyptian's man's name. And it dates from the late period of Egypt, 600 BC. That's fascinating. This is on page 402. And then Sariah, the wife of the prophet, they discuss her spelling in the Hebrew and the Aramaic papyri. There goes the neighbor. Hey, neighbor. And they talk about, in the inscriptions, they found a woman named Sariah, the daughter of Hoshea, son of Harmon. And according to Jeffrey Chadwick, who studied this text, Cowley constructed the final H of Sariah, and he found that Papyrus 22 has this name Sariah in the Elephantine papyri. And then they talk about Cumorah and Josiah and Jerushan and all those other names. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you the extra linguistic, inscriptional, archaeological discoveries of all of the names of the characters in the very first chapter in the Book of Mormon. Lehi the prophet, Sariah his wife, his sons Laman and Lemuel, Nephi, Sam is also obvious. Shem, Sam is a Semitic name. And then, of course, Jacob, named after Jacob, the patriarch in the Bible. Absolutely every single name is attested to be in the ancient inscriptions and ostrakon, and it's in the right time at the right place. Even the meanings of their names could viably be fit in with their prophetic roles. So once again, this first chapter, we read it in about 3-4 minutes. We whiz right through it, not even contemplating and thinking. How many hours have I been discussing this first chapter of the Book of Mormon? The first page? 5, 6? I have a lot more minor details that I will eventually, I'll tie them in with later parts of the Book of Mormon, because that's how they're tied in. And let's keep going through this Book of Mormon. But for the first chapter, the Book of Mormon opens up absolutely perfectly to fit the 600 BC era, and all of the names of the characters involved in this fabulous story of the destruction of Jerusalem, and their visions, and the theology and understanding that they have, and their culture of being combined with the Egyptians and the Hebrew. Absolutely perfect opening for an authentic ancient 600 BC text. We have that in our first chapter of the Book of Mormon. Absolutely fabulous. Okay. I know, you're going to get distracted looking at the windmill behind me, so go ahead and look at it and get it out of your mind. And I'm in the windmill projects up here in the hills of Bone, Idaho. Once again, there are so many numerous details in the first page of the Book of Mormon. I still can't quit talking about it. This is out of Glimpses of Lehi's Jerusalem. This is edited by John W. Welch, David Rolfe Seeley, and Joanne H. Seeley. 2004, basically brand new. It's nice to know, The LDS scholars have gotten deadly serious with the Book of Mormon. We have dozens and dozens of first-rate LDS scholars. John W. Welch has a selection in here on the calling of Lehi as a prophet. If you can get anything written by John W. Welch, you would do yourself a favor. I cannot speak too highly of him. He's absolutely top dog. And there are dozens of scholars that are as good as he is in their respective fields of expertise. We have, well, anyway. He analyzes the first chapter, brief little snippets of each verse. And again, we read this first chapter so fast that we don't really grasp the enormity of the situation. Nephi just casually tosses off the remark that in that day when Lehi was called to prophesy against Jerusalem, in the land and in that time, there were many prophets going to Jerusalem. The situation is dire. Jerusalem is wicked. It's going to be destroyed if she doesn't repent. Lehi isn't the only prophet there, any more than Jeremiah is. There are numerous prophets prophesying against Jerusalem. She is being warned. She's the last standing bastion in Israel, and the Babylonians are coming after her. They've already deported the government officials and stuck Zedekiah on the throne, and now they're coming back, and this time they're going to level the city. Well, there were numerous prophets trying to warn the inhabitants, folks, you are going the wrong direction. Listen to how masterfully John Welch discusses this principle of Nephi saying, well, there were many prophets. He says that in the 4th verse of the first chapter. Nephi reports, there came many prophets prophesying unto the people that they must repent or the great city of Jerusalem must be destroyed. Well, who were these other prophets, and how did their words compare with Lehi? Prophetic messages of judgment and destruction were in fact common among the so-called classical prophets of Israel, who are known to have been active at this time. For example, during Lehi's lifetime, Nahum, 612 BC, that was his era. Nahum proclaimed the vengeance of the Lord on his enemies and marked the fall of Nineveh. Zephaniah, who also lived during this time, prophesied that God would sweep the earth completely clean, and he would stretch his hand over Judah to punish its royal house, and to wipe out Jerusalem, all remnants of Baal. That's Zephaniah 1, 2 through 9. Look these up and read them as you can. By the fire of his jealousy the whole land shall be consumed, he prophesied. Zephaniah 1, verse 18. Gather together, you unruly nation. See, unruly nation. Now we get the feel for this when Nephi runs across Laban. And the kids, when they were sent back to get the brass plates, Laban just treated them like criminals and robbers. He threw them out of his house. He stole their property. He tried to kill them. You know, this is a reflection of the wickedness of Jerusalem. Well, Zephaniah, Nahum, Lehi, Jeremiah, there were many prophets. You can see by Laban's attitude, Jerusalem was hanging herself with the rope. Before the burning of the anger, gather together, you unruly nation, before the burning anger of the Lord comes upon you. And this is Zephaniah 2, verses 1 and 2, and then he says, compare with chapter 3, verse 8. Well, Zephaniah spoke doom against Jerusalem, calling it a tyrant city. A tyrant city.